New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon has now stated that Trump's recent threats against Iranian civilian infrastructure are unhelpful. He further added that it was unhelpful because more military actions are not necessary. He also stated that he thinks the bottom line is that the focus needs to be on not seeing this conflict expand any further, and that they got threats from the president over the weekend. Any of those actions, including bombing bridges and reservoirs and civilian infrastructure, would be unacceptable as well. Shruti, what is the impact of the war on these countries, Australia, New Zealand, the countries in global south, far off in Asia?
What is the impact? The first impact of the war is the rise in energy prices, which would lead to a rise in transportation and logistic prices, which would lead to a rise in your generic goods and appliances, and consumable prices rise. So that is something that the world has to ready themselves for. Each and every economy that was trying to do more manufacturing and production, well, that has also gotten more and more expensive now. The instability has, as you can see, the markets reflect the reality. The markets are fluctuating up and down every single day, and that show us that the people, investor confidence in nations not even involved in the conflict is shaken, because the energy base on which these manufacturing hubs work on is also under threat. So the far-off nations, one, they will have a very sweet and sour relationship. Specifically, the Western nations will have very sweet and sour relationship with Trump, because Trump now looks at them with a jaundiced eye, because he does not trust them to stand by his side. Not that he's a very trustworthy fellow himself, and his words can have multiple meanings, and he can turn on his own friend any single day now that they realize that they've kept their distance, and Trump is not going to be very thankful for that. For nations like the global south, this particular skirmish proves that Trump does not really understand geopolitics for them, and there were more than one objectives of this particular war. The primary one would have been Iran's nuclear access. I will not say assets, but access to technology via the plans that purchased from AQ Khan, as well as their enriched uranium, would have been the primary goal, that their stated goal. Israel's existence was the secondary goal. The third was a petrodollar deal that they want to continue and by controlling the sources of oil. But beyond that, the other objectives was to control China and the trading in non-dollar denominations. China had Iran been successfully suppressed, China's major oil supply would now have been choked off, with Venezuela cut off as well as Iran cut off. So the control of China over the markets as the second largest economy, as a major manufacturing giant, as well as its control on the markets, were being threatened. So the global south were holding their breath to see who comes out at top of this war. Whether if America would have kind of flattened it out and won it in one go, China would have been significantly impacted. And that would have changed the equation for the global south, because then they would have to find where they stand with USA, whether they are in the same boat as Cuba, who has no choice but to bow to the economic imperialism of USA, or whether they have other recourses. And the global south would also have to wonder how their alliances now have to be rethought or strategically aligned. So Southern America, of course, continues to stay in a state of flux because of Trump's Don Roe doctrine that we know of now, and his intent to pursue the same. So the world is now going to see a shift, a major power shift, apart from the energy and economic imbalances triggered by the war. But the power imbalances will also have to sort themselves out. And in this, China somehow has managed to come up above USA, because right now, I believe Iran and Russia are trading both only in yuan in terms of their
Yes.
oil, and that puts China on the driving seat of the conversation in the economy of the world. So there have been more repercussions for the world than we have been able to see just by the impact of the bombs.
Shruti, thanks very much for enumerating those details for our viewers, and also thank Komodo for joining us.